So it is actually the 7th. It is still too hot. What time? It's really, really hot up here. Yeah, it's 80 degrees up here. It's ridiculous. Yeah, with the hot lights, it'll be even hotter. Here is sort of a roll call, I guess. I was lining up the figures to photograph them, but roll call makes more sense, just so you know who everybody is. That'd be kind of cool, you know, to know them a little bit. They can say a little bit, you know. It's all recycled. Yeah, the other sets are still there. So let's go on to just the board backs. And here we have a very, very drunk officer who's had too much liquor. No, she's not. Anyway, so we're going to move the helm out of the way, I guess. Here is Captain Ezri, or Leslie Dess in the Chilean version. Captain Ezri is probably in the early 50s at this point, and is commander of the Chimera A, and commanding officer, because Nicola Carno went off to become. Well, she's Carno. She got married to him. Nicola Carno went off to be an admiral, rear admiral. So that's Leslie Dess, Ezri Dax, or Nicola Carno script. So, and the action figure is a Jadzia Dax. They did not make an Ezri Dax in this size. Playmate. So, but so yeah. It's not actually Terry Farrell. No. Just her likeness. Anyway, so let's go on to the next one. Well, the next ones. This is Vince Mahoney. It's a Carrie action figure. Star Trek Voyager got the name Carrie from Starcrackers, from our fan films. Long before our fan films were actually films. They got the name Carrie from the very, very early preliminary version in 1992 and 94, which were never actually shown, but apparently was shown once at the martial arts school, so maybe one of them saw it. So when they made Star Trek Voyager by 1995, there was a Carrie, because they had to have a Carrie in it. Engineer, but in this version, he's called Vince Mahoney, and he is roughly in his 40s, I guess, at this point. Somewhere around that. Vince Mahoney. So there's, and he's still fiery. Anyway, Denise Crosby figure, as Denise Crosby today, in her 60s. This is it's not really her. It's an action figure of her, and she's called Tabby, Tabby. Lower Decks was thinking that she was a cat, so they named her Tiana and made her a cat. Yeah, so it's the same character. So our version here is a Romulan in our version. They didn't look closely, or they decided not to go with that route, and they made theirs a lady, a Romulan lady. She is, in the backstory, related to Sela. She's Sela's younger sister. In the backstory. Yeah. Sela. Anyway, there she is. Actually, she would be Sela's technically older sister. Was it time warp, time travel? She'd be her older sister. That's right, yeah. That makes sense. Like her stepsister. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she's the chief medical officer. She's the chief medical officer on the ship. Ayer has retired or disappeared. And yeah, she's still sassy. So yeah. Torres. Crash. It's a Klingon version of Torres. That would be Roxanne Biggs. She would be, as her character, would be about in her early 40s. Yeah, so in the story, this character. Yeah, so there she is, Kraz. She's got a little thing with Mahoney, but it's kind of just a platonic, playful, flirty friendship. Yeah, so Kraz is the chief tactical officer on the ship. My character, my action figure, Calcat, action figure, and he is a rear admiral of space and time, sort of like a Q. Basically, a Q for cute. So, of course, he's a cute. Anyway, so there he is. He's a Sicilian. And he's also a holocat in the story. And he's a data figure that's been painted to look human. We have Mark's Cards, a Chief O'Brien, Paul Meanley figure. Mark's Cards. And he is also a Admiral of Space and a Q-like being of space. They aren't featured too much in it because that's nepotism. It'd be like if, like, in the middle of the story, they referenced Patrick Stewart as an actor in Star Trek. Just he walks in and he's all, "I'm Patrick Stewart on Star Trek. I play Picard, but now I'm Patrick Stewart." That would just like weird if they did that. But they're through Commander Zeta Jaxa. Zeta Jaxa is like Locarno and some of the others has an interesting backstory in that we started out with having to redeem Nick Locarno because Nick Locarno and Tom Paris are technically the same guy. They just decided when they started Voyager that they should make him Tom Paris instead and make him more redeemable that way by making him a different guy with a different backstory, just slightly, but putting him in the same prison and everything. Now, how they redeemed Nick Locarno in this one, or Admiral Nick Locarno, and and he looks like Paris. He's another Paris, but especially for the remake. He's wearing the Picard outfit, and Rear Admiral Locarno and Rear Admiral Paris. They're both admirals in this one. Lower Decks Paris did appear, so we had Locarno appearing in a Lower Decks episode in 2380. So it was Paris, not Locarno in that one, because Locarno in 2380 would still be in the Cardassian prison. Oh no, he wouldn't. No, scratch that. He wouldn't. He'd be out of there by then. That was the 70s. Okay, so he'd be out of there. So what happened is Nick Locarno, unlike Paris, was captured by the Cardassians. And when he was captured by the Cardassians, he spent time in the Daklala prison camp, where he met Cito and Mahoney and Crass, who were young. They were teenagers. And Cito. Cito had been captured by the Cardassians in 2068. And the Enterprise D never thought to check up on her and assumed she was dead. Other characters, they didn't do that to. So that was one of the plot points of Chimera, is that rescuing Zeta Jaxa from space. And the other version, she's called Zeta Jax. Here she is finally getting a promotion to commander, and her own command of a ship will be pending, I'm assuming. And in the opening teaser crawl of this story. We're probably not shooting that tonight. It is too hot up here. But here is Zeta Jaxa. She was rescued, but was traumatized. She had PTSD. And so it took many years, and she's now in her 50s, and now she's a commander. So that's so redemption story for both of them. The Locarno had rescued the Exeter, commanded by Captain Sarah Esteban, in the dialogue with Tuvok in the beginning of the Chimera movie. So this is back to that. Okay, let's go on. Acting Captain Admiral Captain Riker. Acting Captain Riker, and also, Admiral, I guess. In this version of Silly Trek version, in the last movie, we said Riker and Troy didn't have children. The Picard show indicated they did. Well, we got a way around that, but we're not going to go through that here. It would give away something, so we're not going to do that. This is very cool looking, though. It's a Riker figure. He's Riker. He has a child. He has two. One passed away. The other one is Thad Riker, Thaddeus Riker, who will come up, be mentioned later. That's so far I did. So we had some character mistakes. This is a Worf action figure, but he will be playing, he will not be Worf. He will be Alexander. This is the grown Alexander Rozhenko, late 30s, early 40s, as last as an officer on the ship. He'll be the helmsman, I believe. I think he's helmsman. Helmsman on the ship, and special ops. So he's Section 31. Ooh. And yeah, he's kind of that, kind of. So yeah, that's cool. And why could it be Why should Section 31 be running around with badges that say on them Section 31? It'd be like giving it away. It'd be like, I am a spy, come get me. Yes, that makes no sense at all. Anyway, so here we have the crew that's not really the... Oh, we have the doctor. Just ready, yeah. So this is the doctor. The holodoc shows up again. We have Robert Picardo returns. Gray hair now. And here he is. So he has an extra. Robert Picardo is in a gag scene involving backstory of Tabby and her ex off the ship. Yeah, so... Yeah, the pilot has a lot of character development of the main characters. And then it's sort of, yeah, the other ones have the lesser, lower decks kind of characters going on for the rest of it as the main characters. So the pilot has everybody. Something was, because it looks kind of like the other, the Hat Girl, not supposed to be Tam. I forgot. Tam is wearing the cowboy outfit through the entire thing. This is actually the whole series. This is actually Molly O'Brien from Deep Space Nine, who looks like a Ezra Dax character. It's Molly O'Brien, and she doesn't like space stations anymore. She doesn't show up in the pilot, but she's mentioned. She's in the rest of it. They find her on a space station to be ironic. So they find her later. Then she's in the rest of the show. So yeah, she's sort of a non-combatant kind of thing. Character, not really in Starfleet, really directly. A non-com, I guess, like O'Brien was, but kind of also. Well, non-com means non-commissioned, is what I mean. Non-commissioned. Yeah, so yeah. Anyway, so that's what she's supposed to be. This guy is actually not who we thought it was. This is not Astor, not Jeremy Astor. This is actually Towhead Harris. Towhead Harris is a Sicilian. He's in the story. It's Mr. Cullen. His shuttle, Mr. Cullen, from the Next Generation. He'd be in his early 60s. Yeah, so that's who that actually is, Durango. But never takes her hat off. Because Clay Cowpoke thought it would be funny. So yeah, it's Durango. And yeah, Durango Troy. And it's Tam Locarno. Locarno's daughter. Who's roughly the same age as the Riker kid, the Kestra, who is also in it, who is also 16 in the story because it's 2 years after the Picard show. Yeah, so we're presuming that she's a stepdaughter of Nick. Yeah, that she was around in Chimera. She was just a baby, so they didn't include her. We're presuming that might have happened. That she's a stepdaughter. Or yeah, anyway, so there she is. That doesn't come up in the story, but that's the assumption. Yes. Susie Plaxton returning as Susie Plaxton. Let's see who that is. Susie Plaxton, the cute lady, or she's other things, but mainly she is here as Miral Paris. I said Molly O'Brien. That other one was Molly O'Brien, and this is Miral Paris. I think that's what I said. Molly O'Brien of Space Station. I think that's what I said for Molly O'Brien. I'm not sure. And this is Miral Paris, Tom Paris's baby with Belana Torres. So is her niece, Dax's niece. And next niece, she was born in 2378, making her in her early 20s. Yeah. 2378, so 24. Well, maybe 30s, late 20s, early 30s. Okay. Yeah. So, yep. Yeah. So this is almost the time in which the other Admiral Janeway goes back in time. That was 2404. So this is 2402. So it's a little bit before that. So yeah. And incidentally, in terms of the timeline of Picard's show, this story actually takes place after the second season of Star Trek of Picard. After. So, interesting. But you don't need to know anything about the Star Trek Picard next season to watch this. You can totally watch this. It's fine. It will not cross over at all. So yeah, it won't interfere with anything. And this is she is also snarky. Yes. I give Crass a run for her money. I assure you. The plucky little moppet Kestra Riker, also a Troy figure. Rena's Curtis figure. Now she is like 16 and yeah, well endowed for this figure. I was like, what the happened? Okay, so oh well, but it's okay because she probably doesn't really doesn't swing that way anyway, so it's fine. She's yeah, it's not revealed what she swings really. But here is Kestra Riker, or Pickerly in the other version. And they do explain how Riker and Troy could have kids and not have kids in the story. We won't go into that because it's part of the story. So yeah, this has this is a Bashir figure. This is Alexander Siddig. If you know the backstory of Deep Space Nine, as I do know the backstory of Deep Space Nine. The Alexander Siddig was apparently dating and then making it with a Nana Visitor, Kira, Nana Visitor. They had a kid, and they wrote it into the story that out of nowhere, Keiko O'Brien got in a shuttle accident and was pregnant, even though she wasn't, and then suddenly Kira's pregnant for the rest of the season, and gives birth to the kid. And I was writing this character, and I thought, you know what would be funny is we were going toward the end of it, really, and retcon the pilot here. We had to change this guy, because this guy should be a Bashir action figure. So that in this timeline, Kira wasn't with Odo. Kira was with Bashir, because that makes more sense. So that whole scenario, this is a separate timeline, so Cillian timeline. And even though Kira was with Odo, secretly she was with Bashir. So this kid looks like Kira and Bashir got together. And there he is. And Jack Siddig, there he is. Kira. So this is Kiriyoshi O'Brien. And he is not an O'Brien. He's actually Kira and Bashir's child, but he raised him anyways. He raised him anyway. And so that's actually canon with what happened on Deep Space Nine behind the scenes, but wasn't in the show. Other affairs happened on Voyager, such as the Kate Mulgrew had dated the producer, one of the producers, and Jerry Ryan was the girlfriend of another producer on Voyager. I don't think they had any kids together though. But Yana Visitor and Alexander Siddig, they did it. Just so you know. So this character kind of addresses that in there. And he's like, yes, of course, I look like Siddig Fidel, because Alexander Siddig, because, well, yes, I actually the love child of Kira and the Doctor. Yes. I mean, obviously. I mean, look at me. I look just like the Doctor. Anyway, so yeah. Okay, then here we have Mark's card saw this picture of this little short Picard guy, and thought, it looks like he's a dwarf or something. But no, he's just a little shorter than the other ones. This is Jeremy Astor, Worf's Bond brother from the story. Jeremy Astor. Also, he looks a little bit like Boimler from Lower Decks, but he's not. So don't be confused. He's not Boimler. Here we have Tendi, the Orion girl, plucky, outgoing Orion girl from Lower Decks, who, now that it's 30 years later, 32 years later roughly, would be 50. And yeah, and she would be more mature, allegedly. And also the character is clearly modeled after characters from Rick and Morty, but also characters from, because of the McMahon, and also the Cillian character of the Green Girl, and who was based on Gaytop loosely, from the Mike Gamelt parody, not Mike Gamelt, but the parody of Mike Gamelt script, the Uncharted script. The parody script was just really convoluted. So basically, it's based on a parody script character who was made to be sillier than she actually is. And she acts just like her, so it totally works. If she wasn't based on the Sandra Talisman character from Silly in Space and came up with it anyway, it's an extreme coincidence of a doppelganger, except in green setup. No, white. Talisman was white, but here she's green. Anyway, so yeah. She's very plucky and excitable. But Gamelt never wrote a Star Trek. He wrote fanfic, not a Star Trek. I should probably make that clear. Uncharted. Anyway, so when it turns to me, it's the characters. I think we've probably been over that before. But needless to say, I'll try to be brief as possible with the story of the Gamel thing. Star Trek Beyond was in production in 2015 with the third Star Trek film with J.J. Abrams. And a very enthusiastic and very in-the-know internet fan, Mike Chang Gamelt, decided that he would market his little website in his fan script. It wasn't a story, wasn't a fan film, script. Just a script, very long, 3-hour long script, with the same name, Star Trek Beyond, so that he could get people to his website. This worked, and several internet sites ran with it. Trek Movie, Trek Core, their version of BBS, their version of TMZ, they all ran with it. Even Screen Crush and Screen Rant ran with it. They all wanted to get into the action. What is this Gamel thing? Because this guy had pitched his idea, at least on his website, and claimed that Paramount found out about it and said, "We like your story, so we want you to come pitch for Star Trek. Your story, your fan film, your fan fiction story, not film, fan fiction story." It soon got out and exploded all over the web at that point, 2015, 2016, mainly 2015. That he would allegedly go down and pitch to Paramount in November of 2015, that he would do a Star Trek submission of his screenplay of which had some, let's say, major errors of screenwriting in it, that several people chimed in. At first, there was the internet vitriol typical of the interwebs. The Reddit got into it. The Trek BBS got into it. The Redditors mocking anyone that disputed the story, including Cal Catster, who jumped out and said, "Wait a minute, I don't think they accept unsolicited screenplays." Immediately shot down by everyone else. No, it cannot be. They cannot say that. No, it's got to be true. It's got to be true what he said, right? It's got to be true. He's pitching Star Trek, even though when you go to the Paramount website, it says no unsolicited scripts, no people that are not famous. You submit a script to us, we will throw it out. Don't even try to email it to us. We will throw it out. We will reject it. If you're not in the know, you don't have an agent, forget it. No unsolicited scripts. It said that. That's what stopped the Trek Corps people from harassing the Calicaster. Because the Trek Corps people actually went to the Star Trek site and read the guidelines as per his suggestion, and they were like, oh, that guy's obviously making that up then. He's not pitching for Star Trek. Who is he? Turns out he's a gamer that wrote some games, game code, and used his knowledge to get himself all over the web using the game code bots and ads. So, but apparently these other internet troll places and tabloids ran with this story, thinking it was absolutely true without checking any facts at all. Without checking any facts. Yeah. And he kept going with it, and there were Google pages on it and stuff. There were eventually the YouTube channels chimed in. The other ones chimed in. A YouTube channel was actually shut down. Some were shut down. There was a CalCat one that was shut down around that time as well from that the trolls. They just didn't want it to be untrue. They didn't want it to be made up, and it was made up. Gamel made it up. He completely fabricated the whole thing. It did not happen. He did not pitch for Star Trek. Who is this guy? And then some of them complained, oh, these other people are just bullying him. Bullying this kid. It wasn't a kid. He's my age. Turns out he's he's a millennial. He's not a millennial. He's a Y generation, X generation person from well, he's a little younger than me, turns out. A little younger. Yeah, so Jane Piedmont, one of our personas, contacted some Voyager people they still knew. They read it. There was a Deep Space Nine person and a Voyager person. And they sent back a thing. They said, yeah, we're not in Voyager anymore, but we'll look over this guy's script and see if it meets script deadline, for script guidelines. Let's do a rational deconstruction. And I also did some channel videos on my main channels, looking at the script, for script writing guidelines. I took the script writing class. I also, back when they had when they did do some fan submissions, they had a contest. And I think we've been over this before, but it's Star Trek in this version, not Transformers. The Star Trek one, they did in the 90s do a submissions guidelines thing. First 10,000 scripts. They weren't going to take any of them. They just wanted to farm out and see which people were at least a little clever. So they, yeah. So and then take them, use their story. So in the 90s they did that, yeah, but they don't do that anymore. They stopped the script submission thing around 1999, 2000, before Enterprise was in production, and around the end of Deep Space Nine and Voyager, pretty much. Voyager was still going on for another 2 years. That's right. Yeah. So there was no more submissions, not since the millennium changed. There haven't been any submissions. It's 2015. There are no submissions. I did submit back when there were. So they knew about us. Milt knew about us. Oh, he did. Yeah, we made Mark's Cards and I made it evident that, yeah, what about these two guys, from back in the day? Did they get in Star Trek? We didn't. We had nice rejection letters that were well written. They were nice rejection letters. They were there. Deep Space Nine story, we can't accept it. We want to do something else with the Dominion and the Vorta and the female Vorta. And we're going to do something else. And we might address it in a future episode. And they came out with that future episode, and it was called The Ship. And some of my lines are in that episode of The Ship. Whoever wrote The Ship looked at the script and put it in there. That's awesome. But yes, the other one that I thought was a more interesting one was the Voyager one. And that one was a Tuvok episode. And the only thing they rejected there was too many Tuvok episodes in season 2. So they held on to it, and they stamped it twice. They stamped it in season 6, kept it around until season 6 and 7, sent it back. Said, all right, we just had too many Tuvok episodes and too many episodes about politics and things like that, and your story was kind of like 3 others, so Still keep writing. It's awesome. So yeah, great. So the Lolita Faggio was the script coordinator, but also there was somebody named Melinda Snodgrass was one of the other script coordinators. And years later, I happened to see her at a convention. Familiar with the story idea and the anonymous story writing thing. It turns out that she's most likely, didn't say directly, or at least in the know, said, "Oh, I know the wink person that wrote deconstruction of Mike Gamelt's script. We had fun reading it." I was like, really? Oh my goodness. So she's this little old lady and she's all, no, we weren't trying to be mean to him. We just wanted to look it over and see what was, to explain to him how script writing works, because obviously hadn't taken any courses in it. So we were just, and your Calcat blog was a good deconstruction as well. It was close. And some of it works, so maybe you can pick up spoof. He had since changed the name of the website to Star Trek Uncharted, which is a ripoff of the game Uncharted. So he's not very original. He would post pictures of actors that he wanted to be in the fan film. There's no fan film. There never was. It was a script. He rewrote it several times on our suggestions, and several others. By the time we got up to 3 or 4, we copied it. But he did it, since then he did it again twice, and we made a kind of a spoofy parody of the deconstruction. And the deconstruction of it became the Cillian episodes of Keptera and the other planet, the Key Draconis. There were 2 episodes in the Cillian realm where they went to these 2 TV planets, and 2 of the episodes were about Mike Gamelt, with his name changed to Bertham in there, with his name changed and his script, and he wanted to pitch to. In that parody, it's called Twin Mountains instead of Paramount, and they tell him about the script submissions and all that. He wrote that down. That ended up in the script. So this is back and forth going on. He thought that he pitched, but he pitched to Silly Track. He didn't pitch to Paramount. He pitched to us. So yeah, in deference to that, his character is referenced there on that one, and on Prodigy, one of the characters is like one of his. On Lower Decks, there's 2 of his. There's the transhuman, not to be confused with transgender. Transhuman, as in he's part robot, part human. That should say cyborg. It makes more sense. Just because cyborg makes more sense, he's a Borg. The Voyager person kept saying, like, just call him a Borg. He's a reformed Borg, like 7 of 9. That makes sense. It's already canon, so he's a Borg. Transhuman Borg, And that's kind of what they do. Rutherford from Lower Decks is essentially Gamelt's character. And Tendi is another Gamelt character. So they both are. Tabby might be too, in a way. The Romulan doctor on Chimera is very similar as well. This is cross-pollination. I've never met the other Mike McMahon. But if I did, I would wonder how this weird cross-pollination worked. But yeah. So yeah, needless to say, he thought he was still pitching for Star Trek, even though they made guidelines by 2016, partly as a result of the Axanar lawsuits and all that stuff. Axanar got sued for making a cast of B-list actors, paying them and paying a studio, and trying to use the name Star Trek to become famous. They spent like $1 million on that studio or something, and Paramount said, no, you can't do that. Some of the other guidelines are silly, like the length and all that. But that, no, you can't make money off the brand. If this is a Star Trek parody, it says in the guidelines from 2016 and the later revisions in 2020, it says that you can make a fan film, but you can't get paid. So if I have any voice actors on my fan film, for instance this one, I don't. They're all me. Doing the Mel Blanc thing. I can't get paid. I can't pay myself. It's not a real studio. I know that. Oddly enough, Gamel doubled down, and years later he would say like his stuff was inspiration for Discovery and stuff. I would say Lower Decks, yeah, but not Discovery. Discovery was a Aegis Sambhava, Remembrance. his Steam game that they claimed they hadn't seen, but they clearly had played. It was online. I played it. It's around. Yeah, kind of the same stuff going on in there. The characters were borrowed from a Steam game. Guess they figured, well, couldn't borrow them from Fortnite. That would look weird. Yeah. Also, yeah, Spore Drive, Mushroom Drive. It must be weird for the real Stamets to wonder why the other Stamets act so odd in this show. You're like, why did they name that guy after me? I know there's a history of that, though. I mean, George LaForge, the inspiration for Geordie LaForge, was a famous Star Trek fan who would go to all the conventions. So, yeah. So they named Geordie LaForge after him. Actually, one of the books, they named him or before that. One of the books. The Dwayne book. George LaForge. Maybe it's his ancestor. Anyway, because it was in Kirk era in that one. Crisis on Centaurus, I think the name of it. Anyway, so so Locarno in Paris. That thing is just basically, I pulled Locarno back into the canon and said, he's also, Robbie McNeil. He's around. He's his twin brother, and the deal with those guys is that Owen Paris and Mrs. Locarno divorced, and Owen and Tom kept the last name Paris, whereas Nick Locarno kept the mother's last name. He's doing other things. Also, there's an interesting and cool Silly Trek Discovery crossover short trek, of which the commercial with the eating tribbles is right out of Silly Trek. The kids eating tribbles. The Trouble with Edward. There's a Cillian in The Trouble with Edward called Edward, and he's on the Enterprise, and he goes onto this other ship with his commander lady, Lucerno. Very similar. So, coming up with this script, we're like, you know what? That'll be kind of cool. If we just to kind of reference her as an ancestor of the Locarno family. She's the first one, and the other ones were like, she'd be 160 or something. Well, yeah, it'd be kind of cool. So she's actually the ancestor of the Locarno side of the family. It comes up. And also, this one, it's not a secret. You saw the cast picture there. Uhura from the classic Trek is in the story. A figurine of her. Nichelle Nichols isn't here, obviously. Unlike Camille pitch. Needless to say, there were no Paramount pitches in November. However, Mark's Cards and I were at Disneyland in November of that year, of 2015, and we did pitch. So yes, some movies have since come out that have kind of been from that too. So mainly Marvel stuff. But no, we didn't get paid. No, or acknowledged. But yeah, we were definitely there. You can blame us for all the uncomfortable moments and stuff like Luca and the Beauty and the Beast live action movie, and definitely the Beauty and the Beast live action. But you can't blame us for casting Emma Watson. I mean, come on, we didn't do that. No, let's see what else. For suggesting to them that Gaston and LeFou are lovers from a parody, they put that in there. They're not really lovers. We just put that in there. Funny. But yes, because he loves and admires him so much, and that's perfectly all right. Yeah, except it was supposed to be the distant past, so they wouldn't have been all right with it in like the 18th century or whenever that took place. They would have been like, no, don't do that. So that's my hilarious rant of making of here. The making of specials that I do each night are going up on the channel, like unlike the Transformers ones. So they're going up immediately, so there aren't like several backlogs of making of footage for each episode. They're just going up onto the channel. So Chimera channel will have the making of. And I don't know him now. I haven't heard any connection with him since 2017 or so. I told him, you didn't have anything to do with Discovery, neither did I. Stop saying you did. Please. Yeah. As for Lower Decks, though, yeah, you probably did. You didn't pitch it, though. They just took the idea from the Cillian version. That's what happened. They saw the Cillian version and said, this is funny, let's do this. Of course, it was completely rewritten, so it's not that script. That script had actor pictures, like publicity show photos of Sean Connery and Haley Cuckoo and stuff, and ship model art from other people that complained and said, "Wait a minute, that's my you can't use that. That's not the Enterprise." And so I just went ahead with things. Now, when we showed footage from freeware footage of space and time from Transformers, from Isaac Arthur and Space Site, or from Michael Gordier's Space Site and whatever, that's freeware site stuff that is using. And if it has a byline at the bottom and says it's like such and such, it's said. We usually don't use the ones that have little watermarks at all. As long as it's space backgrounds that are free, where we can put space backgrounds in there. We don't use any footage from Star Trek. No ships from Star Trek. All the models are built here and then put on film free. Nobody's getting paid. Mark's cars will drop in from time to time during the filmings on Thursdays to see whether we have totally ruined it or not. But yes. But there is a good homage to the Gamelt stuff, as well as homages to other ones. There's a Channel Awesome one. there's a Marshall Sportis doing Swan one. There's an Ancient Aliens Calavito one. Calavito one. There's which is the Freaky Loud one is kind of the Gamelt one, with a little bit of Picard in there. Also, the Picard in this version is married to a dude in honor of Mr. Picard from Trek Core. So yeah, even though the real Picard isn't married to a guy. The real Picard, Picard or Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart is married to a woman and for many years and has kids with her. And one of the kids was in Next Generation. He's very tall. He was in The Inner Light. The guy that looked a little like Patrick Stewart was actually his son. So yeah, he's an adult. Because Patrick Stewart was 47 when he started doing that show. And, yeah, it's cool to be back doing fan film stuff again, for free. And I realize the other shows are on the air right now, and that's even better. You can go and watch the other shows and see how close they are. Don't worry about it, though. They're not. You can watch ours. It's completely separate. So, yeah.